Okay. So what we were talking about before we pressed record is when you recognize that there's shit that you've experienced in your life, like childhood, teenage years, early 20s, early 30s, when the fuck ever, you realize that it was like this experience that was a lesson and you see it now, but you're also like, that lesson. And you were just saying, like, what part of my soul contract was I like, will you tell the story of what you were just saying? Because it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I my last name is Burl and everyone mispronounces it and I've just gotten used to it. And if I'm like offended by you, then I would go, oh no. Let me correct you on that. And or if I don't like you. If not, I just let it roll. But no, when I was little though, I had a speech impediment and I couldn't do my R's. And so I went to many hours of speech class and therapy and stuff. But it was really hard being a girl with the last name of Burl and having to remember like no, you got to like pause and think about how you're going to say your r's. I just think I should have grown up in Boston is where I think I should have been. And then I wouldn't have had to worry about any r's and it had just been, as we were talking about, ignorant and blissful. So
Right.
but yeah, just like
Yes.
my soul contract must have went like I was designing it and said, things are going to be hard enough, you got some this and this, let's do a little more character building and just F things up more and just dump this onto her here. So that way she has to not talk and everybody thinks she's like mute by choice or something. They're like, oh, does she not talk? And my mom would go like, no, she talks. And they go, she just, she's embarrassed by, the way she can't pronounce some words. Like, oh, we just thought maybe she was dumb because she wasn't talking.
Like, oh, thanks. I wasn't already internally having a fucking moment. Like now, dude, it's that type of shit that it sears it. Well, like you and I have talked about before, it leaves an imprint. Like it leaves an imprint. And you can avoid it and you can pretend like it's not there. Like we've talked about, ignorance is bliss. I lived that way. Like I thought that's actually, let me like fucking rewind. I actually thought that's how we were supposed to live. Like the adults in my life, when I asked questions because they didn't get the answers either, unfortunately, the adults in my life when I was like, how do I handle these big emotions? I'm very angry. I'm very like, they were like, I don't know, kid, put it in a fucking bottle, put the cork on it, never open it, pretend like it's not a big deal, go work 10 hours a day, let's go. Like, and I was like, okay, all right. And then, like, when I realized that there was work to be done, like, I will never forget the first, like, there were like four, well, now that I'm thinking about it, five different like scenarios that opened up in my life where I realized I'm like, oh, I have to look at this memory that keeps popping up. I have to look at this feeling that keep or this thought or this behavior. And when I did it, I was like, it would be so much fucking easier if I just didn't though. Like would it be easier? No, it would probably be harder, but like right now it feels like it would be easier.
Instant
And
gratification is what we want.
oh my gosh. And we were talking about it in the beginning, how it's so funny on your journey when you do start doing the deeper work, whether you're working with a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a mentor, a healer, a guide, like the list goes on depending on your preference. When you start doing that, you hit a few walls and you're just like, never mind. I want to be ignorant. I want to be blissful. I don't want to do this work anymore. Like, and it gets so heavy. You're like, seriously, can I rewind? I would like to go back. I would like to go back to just pretending like I was okay and bottling shit up and living in mediocrity and just settling for shit that I couldn't stand. Because it honestly, in some moments of your healing journey, your growth journey, fucking expanding your consciousness, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, but the flip side of that I've noticed is that over the past few years, as I've gotten more comfortable with just like owning things and facing it
Mm-hmm.
and dealing with the shit,
Yep.
there's also this like weight off your shoulders. And like once you know, like I don't have to carry this anymore. Like it was hell to go through it. And at the time if I had to repeat everything and it was in the exact same situation, yeah, I would carry it probably the exact same way again. But later on, it just kind of gets like sweet relief and or release of it, I guess I should say. And yeah, I kind of feel like I don't care. Like just there, done. It's out there. Now you know my dirty laundry or whatever it is. And I just feel
Yeah.
like it's no longer holding me back. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's like getting drugged through glass. But on the other side of it, it's a nice, lovely beach you get to relax on.
It really is. And I think both sides, not just both sides, I'm sorry, let me reverse that too. All sides of these journeys is really important for people to talk about and for us to have conversations about and for us to all be open and fucking real about because I thought that I was actually broken. I was like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no fixing me. I no super glue in the world. Like I was so positive that my brain was broken because of how spicy it is. And when I say spicy, you and I both know, I mean, it works really fast. Like my brain works so fast and my imagination is so big and it allows me to now in my life visualize things in such grandeur and I'm able to really refine that skill set. But in the beginning, I was like, this thing's going 110 all the time. And I'm supposed to be quiet and still. And inside, I feel like I'm bursting. And like, and all of that, plus the depression, the anxiety, which I'm not huge on labels when it comes to that, because then it feels like Velcro, like you're claiming it, but feeling those big feelings on top of it and then knowing the actual labels and diagnoses that run through my family, especially on the maternal side, I was like, I'm super fucked. I'm like, I am ultra fucked right now. And then when I found out about like what my body had gone through, you know, trigger alert for anyone that's listening, all the listeners, you know, the sexual trauma, the abuse, the all, I was like, well, my body's broken. Like there was another feeling of that. And like the mind being broken feeling that happened, you know, a lot, especially as a child and a teenager. And then I would have like spells of it throughout my adulthood. I'd be like, no, I can take on anything. I'm super strong and my brain is strong. And then other times I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm so fucked. I don't know what's going on in my life. And I feel like the more that the more that people understand that this is all part of the process and that we all go through these processes, we all feel these big feelings, and it's all part of the journey. None of this is linear. We go back and forth. Like, because in a situation, if I were to tomorrow wake up and be like, my fucking brain's broken, and like fucking last month when my hormones were spiking, I went down a spiral of new diagnoses I could possibly have because I have so many fucked up thoughts sometimes. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, there are times, like, if I woke up tomorrow and did that, I could buy into it. I could buy into it. I could accept it. I could say yes to it. I could claim it. I could however the fuck else you I could talk about it. I could simmer in it. I could ruminate about it. All these things which I've done because I'm a fucking human. But you have to have like this baseline, this core where you know who you are so truly that on the times when there's like you're at the top of the roller coaster but not the fun kind, you kind of feel like you're going to shit your pants a little bit. You have to be able to hold true to who you are and just remember it's part of the journey. It's part of the lessons. It's part of the whatever the fuck you want to say, the invitations, whatever. Like it's an opportunity showing up in your life for you to remember who the fuck you are and stand really firm in that. And also probably give yourself like a shitload of compassion because if anybody is like me, which Jennifer, I would love to hear more of your story and like what you've lived through. But like anybody that's like that, when you're sitting in, that's some shit to wade through and you it's hard not to collect, it's hard to stay true to yourself, and that builds muscle and it builds resilience and it builds confidence and it builds fuck with me I dare you type of feeling, which is
Yeah.
really nice. So how what has your journey been like? What's been the great parts? What's been the more difficult parts? Like tell me what you've lived if you're cool with sharing.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to say. Like, I'm now at this point where like I don't care about like who knows crap about me. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, there's yeah some things like oh that's still vulnerability. I don't want people to know, but at the same time, just kind of like here it is, take it or leave it. I don't care. I'm doing my own thing. But I've catered too long to people, and
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. But yeah, so I was listening to your story. I was kind of thinking, and that's what I think I've had been struggling with for the longest time is that I would hear people's stories of like childhood trauma and stuff, and I would feel like, oh, well, I had a good childhood. I didn't have this trauma. But what was always in the background of everything is that I have a brother who is a raging alcoholic, a drug addict, and he basically has destroyed the family unit. He's destroyed himself, destroyed my parents' health, all that type of everything that stereotypically goes along with having an addict within your life. in your family circle. And so there was just a lot of trauma wrapped up in that. But I never, I guess because I was kind of normal, he was 11 or is, he's still alive, 11 years older than me. And so, it's almost like we were kind of only children at this, at one point. But I know, I mean, it always was there, but I guess I never really realized like that wasn't normal, I guess, in a way, or like just, I don't, my mom really handled all of that. And, she would never, bless her soul, never would take it out like on me if she was having a bad day or anything. She always made sure she did not do that. She wanted to break habits that were through the family lineage and stuff. And she did not, impose anything that, she always wanted me to find my own voice. And she gave me that space to go out and, like, okay, you do you, I'll guide you. If you want my opinion, I'll give it to you, but I'm not going to force my opinion onto you. I'm not going to do what my mother did to me. And so I would see her handle that and stuff. And I knew that, like, I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't as bad. Then when I was like a teenager, it started to get worse with my brother. And then when I started college, like all hell broke loose. And I was living at home, and my brother just really started to spiral out at that point. And several times he moved back into the house. And then it always would end up with him just totally going off the rails, and my parents basically moving him out for the safety of everyone in the house. So, I mean, I think people could kind of tell where I'm going with this. He was verbally abusive most of the times. And at times, especially if he had hard liquor, which he always ended up stealing from somewhere, he would get very physically abusive. And so there's been a lot of memories locked in around that. And so at the time or growing up or whatever, I saw how strong my mom was, and which eventually broke her. And so I've been recognizing those patterns in me, and I don't want to have that same pattern because growing up, I was be the same way. Like, oh, let me help fix that. I'll take on your problems just so that you can have a breather. And let me shoulder the weight. Let me shoulder the burden. And then you take the time you need. I got this. And I was good with that. I could burn both ends of the candle, and it was glorious at one time. The more pressure you put on me, the better I thrived. In fact, it always would drive my mom nuts when I would be like in high school. I wouldn't wait till like the very last minute to do a paper or something. I at least had some sense. But I would wait till like the last weekend before it was due. And she'd be like, you've had, like 3 weeks to work on this. Have you worked on it? Like, no, 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 I got this, which is true. Like the more the pressure was on me, the better I performed. And so I carried that into college. I thought this is going to be the same thing. And I was academically broken my first year of college. And I kind of had this reality check that I had limits. But then after that point, I didn't know what my limits were. And that scared me, and I felt untethered. And then with that kind of combining, like just trying to exploring who I am as a young adult and figuring out what are, my boundaries and whatnot. Then you just had my brother's whole issues getting worse. And then my mom's health starting to tank through all that. And so then I came, very much wanting to protect her and taking care of her and taking that on. And I guess I always just told myself, like, I will process this shit later. Like, I will deal with it later. I can handle it right now. It's fine. And that was true up until my master's degree was a little rough, but that was just because it was weird with weird dynamics of advisors and stuff. I still don't understand it to this day. But my PhD, that is when just everything just piled on, and it broke me. And then when you say like, oh, I'm broke, I felt broken. I felt I wasn't me anymore. I was so bitter, so resentful. I just really had no joy left in me. And I was drained. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was burnt out. And I wouldn't realize until after I had completed finally completed my PhD. But that like final, I don't know, 6 months, especially the last 3 months of it, I was just in constant state of panic. And like my resting heart rate was like low 100s. And I just was so lost. And during this time, because of all the stuff that was going on with my brother, I always had this really strong relationship with God. I always felt like, maybe not organized religion per se. I mean, raised Catholic, still practiced some of the things, but I wasn't like devout,
Right.
hardcore Catholic. But I always had my faith. And I always thought this is something that nothing can shake. And stuff that went down with my brother shook that. So then I was angry that AI failed the test of faith. I allowed him to destroy that faith I had, which then just pissed me off further. And then it ended up kind of rolling into this like I wasn't completely like, oh, I'm over God. I'm not having a relationship anymore. But at the same time, I just felt distant. And during those months when I felt distant, I just felt completely, I just keep coming back to untethered. I just felt like I didn't have that beacon. I didn't have that anchor. I didn't have that guidance. And so then when I was really getting into this like horrific time period of trying to complete everything, just a lot of stress, I wasn't handling it well. And I even kind of would put out these little feelers like I literally said to my doctor, like, I don't think I'm handling things well. Never said this to my doctor ever, never had this discussion. He's like, that's what it is with a PhD.
Oh, fuck.
And it was after he had a resident with him or something that day too. So first I had to tell his nurse. Then the resident wanted to know everything that happened from the moment I was born till that moment I was in there in the room with him. And then my doctor like moseyed on in and went like, so you got some problems?
Oh my
And
gosh.
I just I walked out of that room thinking, how dare you? How you allowed yourself to feel, like basically I was apologizing by the end of my appointment, going like, yeah, I'm sorry for like bringing up my issues. I didn't mean to burden you. And I just thought like, why didn't my doctor stop me? Like he knew me long enough. I had been going to him for many years. And I like, why didn't he stop me and say like, no, 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 you have never said this, Jennifer. This is concerning me. I think maybe we should try some Prozac or something, or maybe I should get you an appointment with a therapist or something. He did nothing, just like let me apologize for bringing up my troubles and moving
Oh,
on. And then I said to a friend too, which I had never again expressed this, and I kind of like put this little feeler out there, like, yeah, I'm not handling things well. And she went, oh yeah. Anyway, about me, da da da. It just
oh,
completely changed it. And so again, I just kind of felt like nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. So I just kept it all to myself because why would I share anymore? I've got shut down twice. But all I remember though is, and this is sheerly by the grace of God, universe, spirit guides, whatever you believe in, fairies and tree stumps, I don't care. But whatever it was, I had this, I always love like signs and like serendipitous moments and stuff. And I
yeah.
always look for that. And I was just really feeling like I need that relationship with God. Like I need to be able to pray, but I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed to ask for help when I had failed the test. The first time my
Mm.
faith was tested, I failed. And so I'm driving to work and the song pops on. I listen to like mostly pop radio, top 40 stuff. And the song pops on. I'm like, oh, I kind of like that song. And I'm listening to it. I didn't really like resonate exactly like all the words or the lyrics. And so I heard it again. And I still didn't know who this was. And then I'm listening again. I'm like, oh, that almost sounds like more like I thought that was about a relationship. That almost sounds like I were like talking about God. Well, here I come to find out it's Lauren Daigle. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
her
I've heard her
music.
name before. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's big Christian music. I hate Christian music. Nothing against that.
Right.
I think it has this like weird generic poppy sound to it.
It's kind of it gives you a weird feeling in your body sometimes.
Yeah,
Not a
like
good
I
one.
love the messaging of it, but like it's just I don't know,
Exactly.
like it's just way they bring it together. But not her songs.
Yeah.
Her songs have this really like authentic mainstream music sound, and it was the song "You Say," and the whole thing was about basically like you might be thinking God doesn't forgive you, and you can't come back to God. He's there. He's got you. Just ask for it. And like I'm driving, and all of a sudden like tears are coming down my face as I'm like listening to this because like the DJ had introduced her and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a Christian song. And I'm actually listening to the lyrics. And I just felt like it was a sign like God was like, child, calm down. Just come back on in. Yeah, I got you. Just come back. And so then
Yeah.
was really weird is a week later, I'm like driving through my little local town, have my windows down. It was a nice day, like in April, which is weird to have the windows down. And like this guy pulls up and we're both stopped at this red light and he has his windows down. He's playing this song, it's like this house music dance beat. I'm like, oh, okay. I like that. And I kind of catch like the refrain. So I go home and like I Google it. I didn't have Shazam apparently on my phone and enough time to do it. I'm like Googling it and they're like, oh, it's Toby Mac, another Christian singer. And it was again this whole thing about like your relationship with God. And I thought, okay, that's freaking me out now. And then the only thing that would calm my butt down during my panic session of being burnt out and on the verge of a mental breakdown was either doom scrolling through Pinterest and just looking at random things and taking like BuzzFeed quizzes about which Disney princess I am or something.
Fuck, that's so real. I can feel that in my whole body right now.
Right. Like, let me waste 20 minutes of my life on finding out if I'm more of an Ariel or a Belle. But then also
Oh,
the British Bake Off. Like those are the only two things that would
yep.
like calm me down. So I'll be on Pinterest and these things kept popping up. And I had not searched for anything like this. So it shouldn't have been in my feed.
Yeah.
But it kept saying like day 200 and whatever out of 365. God says today, and it gave this like message and always like hit me and just strike me. I'm like, whoa, I needed to hear those words, but I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And I kept looking at the source and couldn't like track it back. And it was always a couple days off from like the actual day that it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Miraculously, one day it's like tagged with an Instagram account. I click into it, start following it, and every day it's like the same things are just coming in, like exactly what I needed to hear. Like, you aren't a worthless piece of shit. You got this. And then the thing that just kind of sealed the deal, and I think fortified my faith forever, and I keep coming back to that if I ever kind of question my faith again, is I got an email from my advisor. I had just submitted like my latest draft to him. And he writes back and basically calls me a dumbass, essentially, and that I have the writing skills of a high schooler and that I probably will never finish. And like as I'm reading this, I'm like, I started going to like full like panic attack, and I thought like, oh shit, oh shit, and that I don't know if I should go like throw up or like shit my pants or both at the same time.
Both.
Like I
Right.
just like want to like expel demons from both ends, like exorcist on this or something. And I just like I was in this like full on panic attack, and I just thought like if I just quit, if I just wash out of the program, I'll be ashamed of washing out, but it'd be sweet relief, and I can just go away, and I don't have to worry about this anymore, and I'll figure out what else I'm going to do with my life. And so like I run to the bathroom because I honestly did not know what was going to be coming out anywhere.
Right.
And I said, God, give me a sign. Just give
Mm.
me a sign of should I quit or should I stick this out? And I open up Instagram and not even like two posts down on my feed, there it was as day, whatever. You threw in the towel, I'm throwing it back at you. Wipe your face and keep going. And I just like broke down crying in that moment. And I just that has stayed with me ever since. And like it doesn't matter like all the other sign things, whatever in that moment, it hit me and I did. I went back down and I basically wrote back to my advisor, like, thank you, sir. May I have some more? And I did it. I came to find out later, my advisor said, I just was so hard on you because I knew that you could do it. And I just wanted to really like bring out the best in you. And I thought, you son of a bitch. There's a
Sounds like
way
a
to like,
real 1920s way of bringing out the best in someone.
yeah, I
1920s
mean,
to 1970s. Is that how that rolled?
yeah, I don't, maybe because
Shame them into being better.
I'm surprised he didn't add in there like, but if you smiled more, that probably would be better for you.
Vomit. You would have puked everywhere.
But I kept thinking he said it at my graduation, and like I didn't even know he was going to be at my graduation. And you're supposed to have your advisor there to like hood you to bring you into your doctorate, blah 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 ceremony. And he was there for another student of his, and like first he didn't even see me. Then he saw me like, oh hey, I'm like excuse me, like since when are you oh heying me? Because last time you saw me, you basically told me to go f myself. But okay. And I take that back. No, the last time he saw me was my actual presentation. And after I was done, I was cleaning things up. He like popped back into the room. He goes, that was a really good presentation. Like that was really good. I felt like, what did you think I was trying to do? Like sit up here like a monkey and fling my poo at the committee or something? Like I just like he was like totally just like flabbergasted that I like performed well, and I don't know. But all I kept thinking is like there's a way to like tear somebody down and intend to build them back up again to bring
Right.
out the best versus just like thrashing them, ripping them a new one, embarrassing them, and mistreating them and abusing them, and then going like, oh, I did it for your own good. Like,
Right, right, right.
okay, sure.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
don't think I've ever heard of anybody being like cut off at the knees and embarrassed. And then, I mean, people will come back. Those are some kick ass fucking comeback stories. But they're still looking at the person. They're like, I forgive you. I see it now. All the things. And also a giant go fuck yourself.
He even said, he goes, hey, if I come across any job opportunities, I'll email them to you and forward them to you. And I thought, because I didn't even know like how long my school email would like be lasting because I wasn't
For
signing
sure.
up for the alumni club. And he's like, I'll email them to you. And I thought, you don't even know my personal email. Like, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Right.
I just, of course, I never heard from him again, but
Yeah.
it was just, yeah, the whole thing was, it was weird and tumultuous. But I guess out of all of it, trying to find the silver lining is that I did find my voice out of it. And I knew
Yeah.
from that moment of like how I would never want a student, if I ever was in that position to be advising a student, or even now as a teacher, like I don't want a student to ever feel that way. I don't want a
Mhm.
person to ever feel that way. And that was never in me to be like that anyway. And I always try to make everybody feel better around me to my detriment. And I try to heal people and I still take on probably more than I should. But I also have set boundaries now just because I can't mentally handle it anymore. I'm still fried out from a few years ago. I'm still dealing with traumas and recognizing those are traumas. And it is kind of a complex PTSD, but it occurred later in life. And I just, I'm coming to terms with that. I'm coming to terms with how to deal with that and how to talk about it.
Yeah.
Which the fact that I shared this story to whoever is going to be listening to this about my brother, that was dirty, laundry that we did not share. That was family dirty laundry that we did not air. And I remember even like sixth grade, we had the same teacher. And so my teacher had remembered my brother and she's like, oh, how's your brother doing? And at that time, it wasn't really bad, but he had flunked out of his first semester, second semester of college because he just drank and hung out at the student union. And I covered and I said, oh, well, he did his first year, but, he's just trying to find himself now. And he's, taking a couple years off, just to really figure out what he wants to do. And I'm looking back at this, it's not like my parents said, like, okay, tell them this. I came up with it all on my own. But the
Right.
fact I did that, I think is kind of messed up. And
Yeah.
I had the enough, I guess, I don't know, awareness or something to feel like I needed to do that. And I always felt like I needed to, and again, this was never my parents like projecting this onto me or like expecting this from me, but I always just felt like I had to redeem the family name. Like I had
Mhm.
to show them that, like, oh no, no, he's a screw up, but they did good with this one. And
Yeah.
I always tried to overachieve because of that. And so I put all this extra stress and pressure on myself. And I still do to this day. I'm not like in my career, I'm not where I want to be. And I keep thinking like I just totally fucked things up. And I've done it repeatedly and stuff. And then now I'm realizing, as you said, I need to show myself compassion. And I'm slowly learning how to get that compassion and showing myself grace and stepping into my own and allowing whatever I am to be out there and not hide away from people or like I went through this with a colleague that I thought was a good friend. What ended up that I guess she couldn't handle all of me. And so she could only handle me if I was, happy, shiny rainbows and unicorns and puppy dogs. And so then when she kind of pulled back and just like withdrew that friendship, I was really hurt by that. And
Yeah.
especially when I thought like you knew who I was, and then all of a sudden you just decide like, no, I think that's what it is. I don't even know. There was no real explanation for it. I know I won't get an explanation for it, but just boom out. And so then for a while there, I kind of was thinking like, I need to just keep to myself. I need to not share myself. I need to just, but I've done that my whole life. And I'm tired of that. And I just now I'm now accepting that I am who I am, and those that get me and I'm their cup of tea, they will be around. And those that I am not their cup of tea, good. Just tell me up front though, instead of me pretending I like this tea communion that we're having and then finding out it's not really there. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of like where I'm at, I guess, with all of it.
Well, I feel like that's the perfect segue to introduce you for what the first time being seen and heard to this capacity. Is that correct?
Hmm.
The first time ever, I would like to introduce Jennifer Burrell. She
Okay,
is
that was
here.
insulting with the R there, okay?
Insulting. Did I say it wrong? Even though I asked?
When
Oh
you first said
shit.
Jennifer, you had a little bit of slip up.
Oh
I'm
my
joking,
gosh.
I'm joking, I'm
You
joking.
know what's so funny is that was my little speech quirk coming out. So we might be very similar when it comes to that.
Oh, it still
Uh,
happens a lot. It always happens at the wrong moment too.
oh, one thing I'll share this with you, but let me go back to introducing
Okay,
you.
yeah, sorry, I didn't
Jennifer,
mean to interrupt.
no, please interrupt. Jennifer Burrell, thank you for being here. You are a writer. From just the small amount of time that I've known you, we have gone from being acquaintances to us stepping into a coach and client relationship to you writing for the newsletter that I put out every month with my team, you just creating these awesome relationships and connections inside of the Brazen Sisterhood and in events. And it's just so amazing how much of you I have been able and honored to fucking see in the last few months because in our conversations, and just like you said today, it's not something that you've done often. So it really is such a fucking honor to have you here on the podcast, being seen in this way and heard in this way, and putting yourself out there in this way with your story and your message and your joy that you are rediscovering and fucking reclaiming in your life. And thank you for everything good that you've poured into the Brazen Sisterhood and into our community and our tribe because it's been really awesome. So thank you for being here. Would you like to formally introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and thank you for creating the space that you do because I never would have kind of explored this side of writing and even considering myself an author at all if it was not for you, basically. So you are the catalyst to all of this and giving me that encouragement to step into this. And so yeah, I'm me. Just lonely little me. No, I I've come with geology and geography. That's what my background is in. And right now I'm an adjunct geography professor. And I love teaching. I love talking about earth science. But over the past few years and stuff, I've kind of also just felt like it just always seems like something's missing. It seems like something isn't aligning to get me that full-time job or to get me into the space I need to get into. And just this week, I found out that this job that I've quite enjoy where I'm teaching, I kind of had hoped it would turn into something a little bit more permanent or at least permanent adjunct position, so a permanent part-time. Unless something drastically changes, this is my last semester teaching there. And so I was kind of going through all these emotions of like, I've met some really incredible students and I've learned so much from them. And that really is what kind of defines me and stuff is just this love of teaching and of earth science. And where I started originally is that no, not originally, but where I started with the writing stuff is that I had this idea of what if I could create a children's book that could introduce kids to rocks and minerals or crystals for the metaphysical people out there. But make it in a fun fantasy way so that way they're learning about them, but it's not just some boring like this is quartz. This is
Right.
where it's found. And so I decided to come up with this whole fairy garden thing, and the fairies bring you unique rocks, and they have all these stories from their adventures, their geo adventures, and it goes through this whole thing. So I've been doing that, and I kind of did it on a whim, and I had a friend that said, just do it. Like whatever it looks like, just do it. Just see what it looks like. And so I did it and I've been expanding it and I've been learning and I've never been an artist. I've always at least never considered myself an artist. I always consider myself, I make like messed up stick figures even. So I always been a little bit hesitant about that, but I didn't know anybody that could illustrate and give me what I wanted. And I couldn't afford anybody either. And so I've been illustrating my own little children's book and drawing fairies and coming up with these stories around how they found different things. And I get, some input from friends and say, does this sound good and stuff. And I'm trialing out my book on people that I know's children because I don't have any children. And I've just really discovered this joy in it. And I kind of realized it's a different form of teaching. It's a way that I get to reclaim because I've always my whole life I've enjoyed and loved, except for that time of my life when I kind of forgot about all things that were fun and joyful. But
Right.
I've always loved the miniature world. And I always loved this idea that like, yeah, I know it's not actually there, but what if it was? Just what if there was that magic there? Like one day there was like a frost overnight and it was thawing in the morning and the sun was coming through and it looked like little like rainbows were shooting down from the bushes. And I just
Love
had
it.
oh, huh?
I love that.
Yeah, I never what's funny is someone I know just posted a picture of rain. This is like glittery rain, which is true. Again, kind of that same effect of like just like it was sparkling. It was magical. And I just thought in that moment, like, what if those were really like little fairies that were I don't know, having a light show or having a rave in a bush. I don't know, doing something that was creating that. And I love that idea. And I thought, I want to bring that whimsy back to my life. I want to bring that whimsy to children. And then I recalled and I tracked down actually this summer, there was this book that was written by and illustrated by this 13-year-old girl. And she was part of this like young authors group that I remember from when I was a kid in my school's library. And I think it was made in like 1985, maybe 1987, somewhere in the 80s. But it was called Elmer the Grump. And it was all about this miniature world. And he had this little snail that he ends up basically growing his heart three sizes for that he takes care of. And it was just this like whole like lovey-dovey thing, but it's
Oh,
this miniature world. I love that book. So much so that kids would call me the grump then because I would always be reading that book. I don't care. But I tracked it down this year and I was like rereading it and now being 37 and having hormone imbalances and apparently I read it at the wrong time of month. I'm like reading with the part where like not to spoil it, but the snail dies eventually. And I'm crying as I'm reading this children's book. I'm like, the snail died. And we're opening up next page. I'm like, I can't handle this. As I'm turning the page. But just but that's the type of I guess impact I want to have. And
yeah.
so I've been gathering and all part of this, like the whole children's things, you get rocks with it. And I love sharing rocks. And I love doing this even for my classes. Like I've had some really special classes the past couple semesters. And so I go and I buy something I think will help them. Like if they have big presentations, like I go find some type of stone that, is going to give them those confidence traits. And even though like it might not be, some people might go like, oh, okay, that's woo-woo crap, whatever. I don't care if it's a placebo effect or not. It's something that you can hold on to, ground yourself with, and go out and which they all did. They rocked their presentations. I was so proud of them. But I gave them these little presents. I'm like, here, you take this. This is going to give you that confidence. Just they were lacking confidence for absolutely no reason. They were so wickedly smart. And I just said, here, take this. This will help you communicate. And so I always give out rocks and stuff. And so that's where like this kind of that merged with this idea of doing this children's book where they actually get a little bag of rocks and stuff. So then that brings me to you. And you put out that call in the newsletter. And I don't know, for some reason I think because I had these two, I mean, they've been acquaintances, but now they've kind of become really good friends of mine. They're the lightning bugs in my lightning bug story. But they I don't know, I guess because they kind of opened me up a little bit and made me feel safe, and they gave me just this blind encouragement, and like they saw potential in me that I hadn't seen in years in myself. And so I just thought, I don't know, I feel like I need to write this. And I was so nervous to do so, but I did it. But then afterwards, I came up with like a special rock for each singular story. And I associated that, and that has now launched me into what I'm calling my second volume, but still all logistics I'm working out. But my next set of stories. And again, I'm looking at these different rocks. I'm like, I want this to be my next thing. And then I already have rocks picked out for my third thing. And it's just a way for me to share that, I guess. It's a way for me to share my journey. It's a little bit cathartic, I guess. But I don't know. I've gotten kind of this, positive reception about it, and even, showing it to friends and stuff. And they're like, yeah, do this, do this. And you saying, do this. And that kind of getting reinforced. And I just, for the first time, I actually feel like, okay, I'm stepping into it. But where I'm going to go with all this, getting back to the teaching, is thinking about how I'm losing this job that I had quite liked. I had been teaching because of COVID and stuff. I'd been teaching for regional campuses online. This one particular campus, though, said, okay, we want you back in person now that COVID has more or less ended. So that I got that offer in the fall of 22. My mom passed away in November of 22. In fact, as I was like in the hospital with her, I'm like emailing my boss going like, yeah, that course sounds good. Yeah, I can do that. Or wait, what do you mean by this? And and I never told anybody. I didn't want anybody to know that this had happened. Plus, like they have a tendency to email that out to everybody, and like I didn't want people to know. Or so I told my students that when I was teaching, but I didn't tell anybody else. And so my spring semester, I was adrift. I was getting my bearings. And this regional campus I had gone to I was going to be teaching at, I had gone to as a senior in high school for the post-secondary, whatever you want to call it. It's different in different areas. But basically you're, in high school taking college credit. And I had taken some classes at this campus, and I really enjoyed my time there. And that time, my mom would sometimes drive me down because my grandma, her mom, lived in the area. And so she would go visit her while I was at class, or we would go visit together after I was done with class, or whatever it was. So I just had these, now I look back as fond memories on that. And so when I came back to that campus, I just kind of thought, I felt like, okay, this is full circle. Like this is just,
Mm.
it's divine. This is where I'm supposed to be. It just felt good. It felt like a positive environment. I enjoyed the students. I enjoyed my colleagues. I just, for the first time, I felt like I belonged. And then this past spring, so then a year later, some weird stuff started to happen, just like some weird situations. And I just thought like, oh, I hate this because it's ruining this thing that I really enjoyed. And then now finding out this semester that this is probably my last semester, I don't think I'm as sad, or I think it kind of prepped me in a way or got me ready for this eventual parting. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I kind of feel like I think I needed that to a soft place to land. I landed, I got my bearings, and I'm thinking now it's time for me to go on. It's time for me to go be the author, go be whatever. Hopefully, something with pain and benefits comes my way. Bring in that abundance, please.
Give me that dental insurance.
Yeah, I just honestly settle for any insurance. Just you know,
We're in America in 2024. We're like, can I just get a little bit of help with my insurance?
well, I'm like so afraid. Like right now, I'm like on marketplace, but that's based off of like having a salary. And
How to do at-home lobotomies? Like, what do I do here?
well, so I'm afraid like they're going to like, oh, you don't make enough now, so can I work three part-time jobs? And they're like, oh, you don't make enough now, so you're on Medicaid, which means you don't get any of your doctors that you've established over the past 5 years.
Just like a quick
So
side note, and I want to jump back into what you're saying, but like how fucking ultra stoked are you? Because I know you've been feeling it too. We've kind of talked about it in our group calls and sisterhood. Like there is something changing and has been changing, I personally believe, since like fucking 2019. We are in a space where like these jokes, which are also sad truth. We're like, oh, we live in America. We don't have health insurance. A woman has to fucking give birth at work, basically, and then go like men and women are just kind of in this weird spot. All of us are. Every human is in these weird spots. And I just feel like we are in this rebuild. And it's because, again, personal belief, it's because of people like you and I and the women in the sisterhood and all these people in our community who are doing the fucking inner work to make everything else fall into place better. So like high five to us. High five to us. High
Yeah.
five to the fuck. Yeah. High
Yeah.
five to the listener. High five like if we can all just take a second, I mean, because you have to laugh. I'm a dark humor queen, okay? And that's because you bitch lived through some shit. So you gotta laugh about it. Otherwise, it's a sad, sad thing. So, like, we can laugh about what's going on in America right now. And I see the rebuilding happening. I can feel it energetically. I see it around me. I am witnessing it on large scales. Like we are taking what was the most broken system that we have seen thus far in our lifetimes, and we are not just rebuilding it, but we are rebuilding it with love and inclusivity and fucking compassion and with foresight and with future dreams. Like we are rebuilding a situation right now, and it feels like the rebuilding of this country in a really fucking awesome way. So I just wanted to say that because
No, I absolutely agree with you. I feel the same way, feel the same energy. Yeah,
yeah,
I agree that, and I'm happy to now be one of the people joining in and hopefully raising the collective's energy on that.
yeah,
But yeah, I think there's a change afoot.
yeah, you can feel it. Like you can see that hate and like it's we all know how this little game of life works. When you do internal work at a personal level, you witness it at an external level. So like every single one of us that's doing this work, we're seeing it, and you can see hate being replaced with love daily. Like you, even when I drive past what was once like a vacant, nasty, like cement blocks everywhere field, and now it's beautiful, fertile ground with wild native flowers planted, and there's bees and butterflies and rabbits. And I'm just like, this is what I'm fucking talking about, man. Like, even when we're talking about the earth, which I'm a fellow rock collector. I would love to chat about that before we get done because I've been collecting rocks since I was a little girl with my grandpa. We put them on our hay rack on the farm. We had a whole hay rack of our rocks that we collected.
That is
Um,
awesome.
but like, and I still to this day, I'm a rock girl. But it's just incredible to me because we are seeing something so beautiful happening right in front of our eyes. And the humor to me is so important. It is such a large piece of this work. You have to hold on to the humor and like you said, the faith. And you also have to hold on to the vision. Like there's things that you gotta hold on to when things get fucking rocky. You
Mhm.
have to. And I think we all did that. And I think that a lot of shit opened a lot of people's eyes in the last, what is about to be 5 years, which is bananas. That 2020 was almost 5 years ago because
I
that
know.
feels impossible. But I feel like amongst the chaos and just the truly awful shit that happened, you know, riots in the streets, people being murdered, people being cast aside, so much hate, so much division, so many reasons that were given to us on silver fucking platters by many sources to hate each other and to divide. And well, I'm a Republican and I'm a Democrat, so we can't be fucking friends and blah, 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 blah. I am a this religion and you are a this religion. So we're going to do this tale as old as time. We're going to start a fucking war over religion, even though we live in this, or we literally believe in the same shit, just a different story.
Yep.
Like, there was so much of that, and so many of us buckled down, just like you were talking about in your story. You're like, this is hard, this is rough, this is difficult. And a lot of our faiths got shaken. Mine did, for sure. My faith was very shaken. And a lot of mine came from a lot of fucked up shit I was taught in very religious communities. And it wasn't, there was people that I grew up right down the road from. They're like, what are you talking about? That was not traumatic and that wasn't like fucked up. Yeah, because that was not your story perspective. So I think that to what you were saying before, like we all have our own stories, and like all these things of division that came up, and we all saw it differently in the last 4 or 5 years, and we all had our own experiences and stories. But at the end of the day, it opened every single one of us up in the ways we needed to be open. And some of us, it felt like it was a crowbar that was like fucking getting in there, and you were like, okay, like, and sometimes it was easy, like a beautiful like fucking flower blooming. Like it depended on where you were, what you lived through, like what you had said. And I'm so glad you brought this up. What has run through your fucking family line? Like, stop paying attention to just the quote unquote diseases that are running through your family line. And I hear you. I have said those words. I see it. I understand. But like, it's probably the behaviors that's running through the family line. It's probably the fucking lack of communication, or the holding on of resentment, or the fucking being hateful. Like, so many of us woke up to that shit and we're like, it ends with me. It ends with me, and a new beginning is starting. And I am not only starting a new beginning for myself and for then, of course, my community and my loved ones, but I'm starting a new beginning for all of us. And I've never witnessed in my whole life, not that I fucking was ever this in tune, by the way, just a side note. My intuition has always been really on, so much so that throughout my life, I've done different things. Like as a child, I was certain that I was an alien. I was positive. I used to go outside and lay on the dog houses. My dad had hunting dogs. Yes, like hunting dogs. Like I'd lay on the dog beds. I'd look up at the stars and I'd be like, I either Reba McEntire's my mom or I'm an alien. So somebody needs to come get me because I don't belong here. I can tell you that. Like, there have been times where I was in paranormal research groups and I had the title of a psychic and a medium. And I was like, what is happening? But like, my intuition now is more than it's ever been. And I trust it more than I've ever trusted it. I trust my intuition more than I trust my rational mind, which I believe is a quite a gift that I've given myself.
Yes, it
And
is.
I am telling you, this feeling that's happening, like you were just saying before, there's something a brewing, something's happening. And it makes me really excited to see what's going to happen in the next 5, 6, 10 years. Like, I just can't, there's no way that I could ever believe that it's going to be bad. I just can't. Call it blind faith, call it fucking stupid optimism. I don't know, because that's totally not my jam usually. But like, there is something happening that we're going to see the most love and the most joy and the most healing and the most abundance and everything that we've ever seen in the next 10 years. I really, in my heart, believe that. So I believe it for you. I believe this abundance that you've been calling in. And I know at a personal level, because coach client stuff, like I know what you've been calling in. And I don't just believe that it's happening for us at a large scale. I believe that in order for it to happen at a large scale, it must happen at a small scale first. And it is people like you that are following your joy and listening to your heart instead of listening to the fucking peanut gallery. People who are not in the pit always have something to say about the people in the pit. So let them fucking talk. Give them a fucking show, like fuck off. Like, if you're going to watch, you're still a fan. And once you switch from like mine, for me to switch out of that, I had to recognize that the people that I did not want to live like, if I don't want their life, like not my perspective of their life, like if I took the facts on paper as much as possible and I saw their life, if I don't want to live that life, I'm not going to take their advice, because I'll just end up like them then, because that's the advice they know how to give. And I'm certainly not going to take their fucking criticism. Like, but what? That would be, I almost just made a political joke, but I'm not going to go there. That would be like me taking somebody's specific opinion of me and I'd be like, cool. Oh, like, it's just, it's important, I think, that people like you continue to trust their gut and follow their passions, and listen to the people that want the best for you and listen to the people that want you to find whatever the fuck that is. And the whole time, like you said, just blindly cheering you on, like, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm really proud of you. And I think it's going to be awesome. Like, it's important to have those hype people and to have people who want the best for you genuinely, because after so long of being around those people, you'll believe that it's common and it's typical and it's normal. And that's a really hard shift to make if you grew up with other types of people and you believed that was normal and you believed that was typical. Like, it's not typical and quote unquote normal for somebody to live in misery and pour their misery onto you and do awful, horrible things to you and others around them and themselves. I grew up with a mother who sounds a lot like your brother, if we're being honest. Like, they maybe are cut from the same cloth. Like, that's not normal though. And when you unteach yourself that, you unlearn that, and then the fucking unraveling, I wrote in huge letters, unraveling. I love that you said that to me recently. Like, there's this unraveling that has to happen, and it feels like everything's falling the fuck apart. And that's because it is. It fucking is. It's your tower moment. And when you rebuild and you do it with a community, like I said, that's different than you've experienced because you handpicked them and you are doing it so you have a tribe and you have people that love you and you have a community that feels good. That work is, I think anybody who does that work should win a fucking Emmy. I don't even really know what Emmys are for. Is that daytime TV? Like, I think we should all be
TV.
right. Like, it's such work and it's so hard and it's daily commitments and it's questioning yourself. And like we said in the very beginning, it's some days just being like, I just want to be ignorant instead. I want to go back to being ignorant and I don't want to know any of this. I don't want to have like understanding of deeper consciousness and higher consciousness or what gets me is like the mirror aspect of life. I'm like, if this person's fucking annoying me and irritating me, there's something within me that I can fucking look at right now. Shit. And like, I wish sometimes I didn't know that. I wish sometimes I just was living. And I'm just so proud to be part of your community and part of the group of people and women who have rooted you on, because I really believe that you're going to be doing some even cooler shit in the world. And I mean, maybe you're teaching the next generation things that they really need to know. And that's what I believe in my heart.
Well, now that you said that, I feel like I can't back down from this. I guess I have to go figure out how to get published now.
Jennifer's like, awesome podcast episode. Fuck Heather, though, because now I have to do this. Oh, I love it.
No, not at all. All I'm thinking is when you said about, like, oh, trusting your intuition is, and that is such a hard, I think, to fine tune it. If you've
Yeah,
been like basically telling to shut up for years
right.
and you think like, oh yeah, I can't trust you because I can't, which is true. Like sometimes I can't tell, like, is it head? Is it heart? Is it intuition? I don't know. One of you are talking and maybe both of you, I don't know. Maybe it's something else entirely. I don't know. But I just, yeah, I think to, go back and kind of trust that, but to feel safe enough that I can take that leap. If I fail, I fail, and I won't have people there looking at me going, well, we knew that you're going to fail, and just like being that negative energy around. And I just always felt like I couldn't show vulnerabilities or weaknesses because people would take that, remember it, and could weaponize it against me later. And I'm now feeling like I can be more vulnerable. And I'm finding those people like you, like my little lightning bug friends, and literal lightning bugs too, because I'm a fan. But they, I can tell them stuff and they're going to support me either way. And they're not going to judge me. And I, put this out there. I let them read my set of musings there. And I was so nervous. I didn't want them to read it in front of me, but the one did read it in front of me. And she read it and then like she commented on things and she's like, wait, are we the lightning bugs on this? And I'm like, yeah. And then she goes, so should I not hug you then? Because I mentioned how I never really liked to be hugged, but they broke that barrier down. And I'm like, well, no, obviously you changed that in me. But she just kind of said it with this like little cheeky grin and like,
Love
"You
that.
got it, girl." And I think that's the whole thing is just I finally feel, and so days of doubt. And there's even like you would not have wanted to be in my car the other day when I found out that I'm basically losing my job here because the whole drive home, a 40-minute drive with just a lot of swearing and cussing, and every dumb shit driver was on the interstate apparently at that time, or at least from my perspective. And I felt I had a little pity party, but then I pulled some cards that night, talked to a friend, and then I just kind of felt like, fuck it, I got this. This is going to be a redirection. This was a lesson. And so there was again that chance of like, because I had people around me that are supporting me, and more than just like, my mom was always my biggest cheerleader. I'm finding new people outside of that now that I go, okay, I trust them when they say you got this. I actually believe it. And I believe it then for myself, and that increases my confidence. And so then I'm more willing to go out there and go like, well, here's my little light. I don't know if it's your light that you want to see, but I'm putting it out there into the world. Just don't snuff it out. And I'm going to try to protect it the best I can. And hopefully it guides people and it guides me.
That was so beautiful. It actually made me fucking cry. I'm not gonna lie. In my head, I just visualized like this beautiful, like Disney movie, kids movie, where like this little girl's holding a little, like I just saw it. I felt it and saw it. That's so beautiful. It's really cool that you're here. And I say that because not to get too mushy gushy, woo woo witchy bitchy, but I mean that's where I live. Um,
Yeah.
I called you in, all the women in the sisterhood, and I continue to call you guys in. And fuck, I'm gonna cry hard. I didn't bring Kleenex. Fuck. Like when I always will remember the day in April that I made the Brazen Sisterhood, being a true fucking in human design, a manifesting generator, being a fucking old school boss bitch, hustle girl back when that was popular, burning myself out at both ends. I learned what Discord was. I learned how to use Patreon and how to connect them, learned how to create a community, did all the back end tech shit, and had it up for sale in 4 hours. Like,
Wow.
yeah. And I mean, that's kind of normal for me. Like, if I have a plan written down, I can execute like a motherfucker. It's just getting the plan written down and out of my
You
brain.
bottle that up and sell that? Because I could really use some of that.
That's honest. Funny enough, side note, that's a couple of my clients that I work with. They work with me so I can keep them on that speed, so I can keep them in that vibe. They're like, what do we got to do this week? And I'm like, bitch, let's go. But I I remember it was when we were living in Wisconsin, and it was in the spring. And as we know, in the spring, naturally, there's a lot of big emotions that were coming forward and a lot of big blossoming. And I felt this rush of what I would describe as feminine energy that was rushing through my home and through my life and showing up in my life and showing up in my perspective and asking me to lean into it. And I knew I wanted part of my community that I am building, part of this fucking massive empire that I've been building. I knew I wanted it to be so based in community. And I was scared of that. I felt the fear. I didn't hold on to it, thank gosh, because sisterhood wouldn't be here. But I felt this fear because, like I said, I don't know if we had press record yet. I don't remember what part of this conversation was pre-record and post, but I just had all these like flashes of like being just so fucking like torturous bullying, like the type of shit that if you and I were to sit down one day and I just told you a couple of the things that happened in school that I even remember, that my fucking brain didn't like control alt delete, like shut down. It's fucked up. It's super fucked up. And I was very bullied by the mother figures in my life, a stepmom and my biological mother, and others. And I had internalized that so much, and it came up right before or right as I was creating the sisterhood, days before, days after. And I just remember being like, I told myself that I was going to create this empire, and it was going to be based off of everything I ever desired and wanted for myself and for others. And the work that I teach in the very beginning, I remember saying often, like, I'm doing this so I can be the woman I needed when I was younger. And I feel like many people that seek out being a coach, or I mean, I went to school to be early elementary special education teacher and a child psychologist. Like, I feel like most of us that go down that path, it's because we have a fucking reason to be going down that path, whether we remember it or not. Or, like you said, whether we believe that it actually had an impact or not, like, we find ourselves there. And I remember sitting there and being like, okay, I'm creating this because it's what I needed. It's what I wish was available more often for me. And then with the sisterhood, all of this came up again because I was like, I want to build this community where women can come and they can actually feel connected, and it's not bullshit, and it's not like what I had experienced was like, I wasn't all shitty female relationships in my life. You know, there were a few decent ones, but even the decent ones, there were moments where I'm like, what you just said and did to me was heinous. Like, I had what I would have called a best friend growing up, and the things that she did were like, I remember vividly this kid I had a crush on that was our mutual friend. She called me one day. I was like in seventh grade. I haven't thought about this in years. I was in like seventh grade and she called me. She's like, tell me what you think about insert his name. And I was like, "Ah, you know, like, why are you like, I was so confused and I could feel the energy of like, there's something afoot. There's something happening. And like, I could feel it. So it made me more nervous. And I remember pacing in our kitchen and dining room. And then I found out he was listening the whole time and they had set it up. And she had told him, like, see, she has a crush on you. And like, there were other things that happened and that started to build. And like, things like that came up in my mind where I'm like, I was terrified. I'm like, what if I built this community and like the energy I'm scared of happening physically fucking manifests inside this community? I know how that shit works. Like, the culture of a company is based off of the CEO and what they carry around and how they operate. And I was like, I don't want to fucking be pouring my fucking shit that I'm still working through into a community of women that I'm trying to build up. Like, the fuck? And it was just so much for me to press go, like, press, okay, this is real and it's alive and it's going to build and build and build. And years later, I'm sitting here with you and I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? Like, how did I take this, like, the fucking, to get cheesy, like, this dream in my heart that I knew women could come together and we could share recipes, we could share spiritual awakening stories, we could share rocks and stones and crystals, we could share stories of triumph and wins and conquering our mountains and demons, and we could share the moments when we want to punch somebody in the fucking mouth, and because we know we don't always have to be fucking happy and smiling, because that's not a prerequisite of being a fucking human being, especially being a woman. Like, it's just really fucking awesome. And having you here, this is what I manifested. This is what I created. And like I said, I called you in, I called all of y'all in, and I'm really cool to, or I'm really cool. It's really cool to see it growing. And I'm really excited to see who else joins us. Like, I swear to you, somebody's going to listen to this fucking podcast. Some woman is going to be like, this is exactly what I've been fucking looking for. Like, this is the community. And that's my hope. You know, like, I hope that somebody, a listener, hey, listener, PS, I forgot you were there for a second. I thought it was just me and Jen talking. I do that literally every time I think. But like, if you are craving this, come and join us. Like, but let's end it like this. Jen, will you tell any woman out there, and it doesn't have to be the Brazen Sisterhood they come and join, just any community that feels right to them, will you tell them from your perspective, from your heart, why that's so important?
Well, first, I just want to say is thank you for having the strength to put your fears aside and create this amazing space and empire that you are, because you've called us in and you've given us all a place to be able to relate to one another. And I think, and I can't do it justice. I'll figure out something more poetic to say later. And I'll email it to you. But
Perfect.
but no, I think that's it. We're all, and I don't care who you are, male, female, in between, whatever. I think we're all just looking for our tribe. We're all looking for that group that we can truly trust, that we can truly be vulnerable with, and vulnerable in the sense of, I guess being able to tell somebody like, hey, I have a crush on somebody, and them not using that against you. That's And I think that when you talk about, oh, I was afraid of pouring my energy into this and like this negative stuff I was working through, I would be more afraid, like, I wouldn't want to pour myself into it and have them turn on me, like a friend
That was
turn.
a
Yeah.
that was a legit fear that I it was like an intrusive fear, intrusive thought style where I'm like, oh my gosh, are these women gonna like team up against me? Or like that was an actual fear.
And I get that, but you didn't let that stop you. And I think that's the thing is to find those type of people in your life
Yeah.
that are scared and they do it anyway. They take that leap because you then and people like you are inspiring the rest of us to go, well, if she can do it, why the hell can't I do it? And if she can set that example, well, then I'm going to grab her hand and jump with her and trust that we will figure out how to fly on the way down. And I think that's what we all need. And I it just as soon as I entered in and so you were kind enough to offer me that little free preview into the sisterhood, and I got in there and I just instantly met people that I just felt like never met in person, but I don't know, just the energy, the vibes that were there. And whether you are in that point of your life of being that far into tapping into your intuition or not, I think just finding that group that for whatever reason, whether you understand it or not, that you feel comfortable with enough that you could break down and cry. You could be a little self-deprecating. You could have dark humor and know that you're not being judged and
Yeah.
knowing that you can just show up as you are. Because I don't think any of us, maybe ever, or maybe there's some lucky ones that truly have that space just to be like, at least for me, like I don't think I've ever been truly myself. I think I've always kept a part of me hidden away, and I'm working on that. But it takes a really strong energy of a collective that you can feel safe enough in and test those waters and go, okay, I can take my floaties off now. Okay, I know that the shark infested waters aren't here. I know that this is, I can go for a dip and then go and sit on the beach and sip a fruity umbrella drink, whatever. I know I can do that. And I think that's just what it is. And it's hard to find. And I think it's not about finding, it's about letting it come into your life. And just as cheesy as it sounds, go with the flow and embrace that. And especially when you don't know, that's when it will happen. That's when the people will find you. And even just kind of as a quick side note thing, something really interesting popped into my email the other day. And I just felt like it was all kind of aligning for this like new opportunity that's coming. And I don't know, it might end up being absolutely nothing and nothing will come of it. But even just that excitement of like there's a possibility, there's some potential there, has now kind of relit that fire and also made the disappointments kind of get tamping down, I guess. And so I that's what people need. And then there's no way to, I wish I could just bottle that up and give it away to everybody. But
Yeah.
that's why I think you just have to kind of let go and do a doom scroll one day on Instagram and find random people that you start following and then sign up for their Insta or for their email and then wait for a newsletter to come through. And you're like, you know what? Fuck yeah, let's do this. And
Is
that
that how it
happens.
happened?
Well, somehow I don't honestly know how I started following you, but somehow, and I'm so thankful I did. I came across you. I loved your energy, and I'm like, yeah, she's real, she's authentic, and yeah, let's do this. And I had
Oh,
signed up for your, had done one of, I can't even remember now, one of your little 2-day mini
yeah.
courses. And I just, again, I like the way you present yourself. I like the way you present what you are working on and helping people with and making it a comfortable space. I love the fact that you are a potty mouth and I can be a potty mouth right along with you. And
Yeah, yeah.
there's no judgment there. And,
Right.
uh, I don't know. Somehow I ended up following you and then I got onto your email list and now I'm sitting here as we wrap up a podcast episode, which absolutely just blows my mind. And this is 2024 has been such a weird year. And hopefully it just keeps getting weirder in the best ways.
Yeah. Speaking of, how did you enjoy your first podcast episode?
It's awesome. I feel like we can just keep chit-chatting forever, but I don't think
Right.
the audience wants to keep listening forever.
I'm gonna, okay.
Some rocks.
Honestly, this is the community for you to just start showing us crystals and rocks. Like this is the tribe for
Oh,
that.
you mean like my little
Oh.
Orca agate and some sodalite and my
Mm-hmm.
favorite, my best little grounding crystal. It's imprinted on me, my little tourmaline. So,
Love that. You know what? I would actually really love for you. Would you like to start coming on more often and doing some like special little series about stones and stuff? Is that something you'd be
sure.
into?
Yeah.
Okay. If not, you can tell me afterwards and be like, Heather, delete that from the fucking podcast. I'm not doing it.
No, and apparently my spring semester is going to be a little bit more open now. So,
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, yeah, I think that would be so cool. I feel like when any of us, when all of us, actually, not any of us, all of us, when all of us find out what lights us up seasonally, because it's gonna fucking evolve, especially for those of us that have spicy brains. What you're really into this fall, you might not fucking be into next summer. You know what I mean? Like if we all just take what we're really passionate about and what we love to talk about and what lights us up and what can help people in any way, shape, or form, and we just share that and we teach that and we speak on it, like imagine the coolness if we all just did that. Just
yep.
and we're in the coolest time of all of history that's ever existed thus far in our history books where we can do that across the world in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like there's a lot of potential.
Let's
But
do
no,
it.
I would love for you to do that. This has been such an incredible episode. Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited to have you back. And I just want to touch through a couple of things here. She had written down here, Jennifer did. I always send out a little outline so we can get on the same page for the episode. And you wrote down some current things that you're doing, and I'd love to just highlight those. They're things we spoke about, but I would love to read your words that you wrote to me. Said almost finished with creating a children's book slash rock of the month project, which you talked about, and I'm so glad you did. That will introduce kids to rocks and minerals, but through a fun fantasy world of fairies and a fairy garden. Also declaring I am a writer. I have my first collection of musings and I am working on the next two. Each collection comes with a corresponding rock that align with the message of each musing. And what are you currently sitting in appreciation and gratitude for? Yes, that's definitely a question I ask every single guest. Friends that are true and genuine and won't let you destroy yourself with your own hateful self talk. So, do you have something to drink right now? I saw you with like a water or something.
Yeah, my water bottle.
Can we cheers first to you and your amazing journey and for you finding and rediscovering all the parts of authentic Jennifer? So, cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Thank you so much.
Let's take a drink on that one. And cheers to those friends and those
Yes.
people in our life who, even when we want to hate the world and hate ourselves and hide away and end it, like maybe end it all. I mean, trigger warning, I've been there too. Like, end it all or end a project or end your work, anything. Those people who are, like you've called them, the lightning bugs in our life, who show up and they say, get your fucking ass up. Let's go. I love you. You can do this. And even when you don't need that type of support, they just see the best in situations, see the best in you, and they share their love and their light and all of the good stuff. Cheers to those people.
Cheers. Definitely. They are the saviors. They're little earth angels.
They really fucking are. All right, my dear. Let's end it the way we always end it. Oh, let me take a drink. You can't
Oh,
cheers and
yeah.
not take a drink. I learned that from my beer drinking days. You can't cheers and not take a drink. So the way we always end this is to ask the listener to go be kind to themselves and kind to others. Told you before we started that this is very much something I just trust my intuition on. And I think I would like to take how to be kind to others and have you ask the listener to try something to be kind for themselves and give them an example. So, to go through that and let you think on it, I'll go first. To be kind to others, I'm going to ask you to go out today and find somebody that looks like they are grieving or they're in mourning or that they're sad. There's a lot of shifts that have been happening, and a lot of the collective is in mourning right now and they're grieving. And sometimes when you're in that space, having someone that will just look at you and smile and send you that look like they see you and they also respect the part of your journey that you're on where you don't want to talk and you don't want to explain and you don't want to have that connection, being that person for someone else, especially a complete stranger in that time, could be what saves their life. So I'm going to ask them to go out and do that for others. And what about for themselves, my dear?
I think piggyback off that is to, well, A, besides extending that to yourself, but to allow others to reach out to you, to allow others to offer you that smile, that little bit of encouragement, that politeness that reminds you that you're not invisible and that there's people around. And if you just look and take a moment to pause, that good is all around and you can bring in that good and spread it. And they're maybe trying to pay it forward themselves, and it would be rude to not accept their paying it forward. But no, to in seriousness though, but to be open to that. Because I think oftentimes we forget about allowing ourselves to accept it. And we just go, oh yeah, we need to go out and give it, but we never allow that energy to be returned back to us. And you have to be open to returning back to us. And I say that as I should be looking in the mirror saying that. So that's my
Same.
own telling myself that. And but I think, yeah, just it goes hand in hand with what you're saying then.
Yeah. I love it. What a fantastic episode. Thank you for being here, Jennifer. I'm
Again,
excited.
thank you for encouraging me to do this and accepting me to do this. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's going to be so exciting to see what you continue to have unfold in your life, and I'm excited to watch it unfold inside of the Brazen Sisterhood and everything that happens just that I get to be a part of and I get to watch. So, I will talk to you guys very soon. Thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you, Jennifer, and we will see you guys again next time on Brazen.